Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A mate, no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A game, better bring your A game.
There's a lot of news that's going down right now, and for some reason, every time we're about to do something big, CM Punk likes to stir up shit. He is a boon to the podcast business. Honestly, he's a hero and a legend to all podcasters everywhere. CM Punk, thank you. But the king of collision, CM Punk, is at it again.
You know, as a Chicago guy, I appreciate that CM Punk is willing to light things on fire and piss off everybody because it does nothing but help us. You and I typically get our best YouTube numbers when Punk is freaking out. Like, I can't thank the man enough. I can't thank him enough, really.
Yeah. So our buddy BJ Bethel, friend of the show, he's from SE Scoops. He said the rumors are going around that many AEW talents have been booked for Collision and then unbooked suddenly. And he named specifically Hangman Adam Page and Nick Nemeth. Other reports surfaced that Matt Hardy was one of those names, Christopher Daniels, Isaiah Cassidy, which was unconfirmed. BJ then goes on to say that Hangman Page was set to do a pre-tape at Saturday's Collision in Greensboro, close to where Page lives. He was then told not to come to the building and that the pre-tape would occur off-site, according to the story from BJ. But that was a request from Punk. That's what BJ had said. But then Punk told sources at this network at Voices of Wrestling on their Patreon, go to patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling or voicesofwrestling.com. Our guys had a story that they basically got it from the horse's mouth almost. Like Punk told their source directly that he had nothing to do with it. And in fact, there was a promo that Punk had cut after the show was over, trying to make a joke at Page's expense, basically saying he wasn't a draw, something like that. The joke wasn't very good, apparently. He actually reached, he called him a peg warmer. Yeah. He ended up reaching out to apologize, but Punk himself told a flagship source that he is 100% the reason that Nick Nemeth and Christopher Daniels, who is talent relations, were told not to come to Collision. And this stems for Nick Nemeth, it stemmed because Punk and Nemeth had an altercation about Nemeth was tweeting. I don't know why Nemeth feels like he can even say Punk's name out loud. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the hell. Like, how does this guy even have a job still?
Trying to score points with the guys on the other side, right? I mean, unfortunately, this is the lines are drawn to the sand. It's like you gotta pick and choose. But do you really have to pick and choose? Like when you're kind of lucky to have a job, is it a good idea to try to piss off a guy who's kind of volatile?
Yeah,
kind of more than volatile.
And why would you do it in public if you're a jobber? Like that makes no sense to me. Like, I think he's got some protection from the elite, but come on.
Can you imagine Iron Mike Sharp talking shit about Hulk Hogan in 1986?
Yeah, it just doesn't. It makes no damn sense to me. Daniel, go ahead, JD.
No, I was gonna say, you know what really makes no sense to me is the reaction to this, because people love to freak out about everything Punk does. And on our old show, on our old feed, we used to joke that people's like, "Oh, Punk's a politician." Punk's the worst politician in the world. He is so bad at playing this stuff because he takes things so personally and goes so over the top with his reactions. But like, this isn't the first time a pro wrestler has used his political power to get someone a job or to keep someone out of a job. Like the fact that WWE has ruled as the only power for so long that people really forget how things kind of used to be, right? Like, have we forgotten about the Clique and how they would just like destroy careers? Like Bam Bam Bigelow was set for a big babyface run after the Lawrence Taylor match. That never happened. Hulk Hogan got George Scott fired as the booker in 1986 in WWF. Like, this is not new. Like, this is pro wrestling. But again, it's CM Punk, so people kind of get a little bit more upset about it than anything else. So just stuff like that is wild to me. By the way, you know who took over as booker when Hulk Hogan got George Scott fired in 86? You know who took over? Mike, you're on mute.
Hey, are we about to get fired already?
We're going to get fired already. Joe and Rich are going to be like, what do we get into with these guys?
I had to mute because my daughter was screaming down the stairs just now, but it sounds like she's done. The tantrum is over.
That's a real thing with parents, yeah.
Yeah, but please, JD, tell us who was the booker in 1986 when George Scott got fired.
Unofficially, Hogan and Tito.
Yeah, I remember that story, and I don't think that many people know about that.
No, so that people go, how can Hulk Hogan have this much power? Well, it's not it's not unprecedented. In fact, usually the booker was the champion. Like
Yeah.
this is wrestling. People have to stop thinking about it like you're working for, Apple or something like that, or
Mhm.
X. Like this is kind of, we're kind of overblowing this. But again, Punk does a pretty good job blowing these things up on his own. So I
Yeah.
can't cover the
Well,
guy.
it's because Punk has these little minions all over the internet that kind of like feed him shit to be mad about, you know? Like, I guarantee he has no idea who Nick Nemeth is. Like, and then he finds out, like, why is Dolph Ziggler's little brother talking shit about me? And then let me go confront this guy backstage. And then sure enough, he did. And now Nemeth is banned from Collision. He is officially not Collider worthy.
He is not a collider. He's not worthy of being collided. So
Mhm.
he is now relegated to ROH on Dynamite, where to be fair, he's steering into the skid and is having people chant hunk or something like that. I gotta actually watch next ROH show. So, kudos to AEW. Like when the Bucks are being passive aggressive, people are totally cool with it, but that's just how these things go.
Well, people identify more with passive aggressive people these days. Punk
That's
is
true.
kind of like kind of a, I don't want to say toxically masculine, but I think that
No.
that's probably what more modern people would think that he is, because he's like more in your face about stuff.
He's confrontational. He's definitely more
Yes.
confrontational. Like on BTE, the Bucks are making jokes about, oh, now you're stuck with us, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, and then clearly that's directed at Punk, but that's
Yeah.
okay. But again, when Punk does it, he's not funny, right? Like CM Punk is a lot of things, but he's not funny. So when he said I was trying to make jokes about Hangman, I was like, it did not sound
No,
like jokes. The key
no,
with
no.
the key with jokes, you got to be funny.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One very,
Yeah.
very, very, very funny.
Nemeth being barred, I don't think is really all that important. But
No, it's
Christopher
hilarious,
Daniels,
is what it is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that he should just be banned from both shows. I don't think he should be allowed to be there. I don't, because he's not any good.
That
But
might be good.
Christopher Daniels being barred, that one surprised me, because I don't know if he's the head of talent relations, but he's definitely like a guy in talent relations. He kind of helped build the company early on.
Yeah.
And he was, so it says Daniels was banned because he was involved with Brawl Out, and Punk is still pissed that Ace Steel was punished and Daniels wasn't. Now, Fightful Select is now reporting that Steele was either granted back pay, or they were trying to work out getting him back pay from the time that he was suspended, which is wild to me, because
Yeah.
I didn't hear a single story about Christopher Daniels hitting somebody with a chair or biting a top star. I didn't hear any of that, but Punk is Punk. So Punk apparently banned Daniels. He basically confirmed that to Voices of Wrestling, but he's denying having anything to do with Matt Hardy being unbooked. And nobody really knows about Isaiah Cassidy. That might have just been a coincidence. So
Well, Isaiah Cassidy's with Hardy, so I think
yeah,
he just kind of gets lumped in there. And it's from what Dave was saying, it's like it sounds like Tony Khan has kind of gone saying, okay, if anyone's got a problem with Punk, we're just gonna keep it away. And
yeah,
I kind of get that, because like if you were trying to keep things harmonious, you probably want to keep the people on who are going to get along with each other, right? That makes sense to me. Like, is this a bit over the top? Is this AEW 90210? Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. But I kind of understand. I kind of understand the reasoning behind things. Punk says he had nothing to do with the Page thing. Tony just kind of did that to kind of keep peace and get out ahead of things. Mike, you talked about that Tony Khan needs to be a better leader. It doesn't seem like he's willing to be a hatchet guy. Like they even made jokes about it this week on Dynamite. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's the right way to handle this, but I also don't know if it's the wrong way to handle it either. Because I mean, they're on eggshells until they get this
Yeah.
$1 billion deal, and you got to you got to do your best to try to keep everybody happy. I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, and I think that $1 billion deal, I think Punk being a part of the company is attached to that, like unofficially, right? Like I think everybody thinks that he's going to be a big part of that deal, so they got to keep him happy. I get the feeling that if they lose Punk, yeah, money will go down a little bit, but they're like one or two hot angles away from rebounding, right? I don't like, they have such a huge roster with so many talented and famous people, and we'll talk a little bit later that might grow coming up soon. Nobody knows. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I think once they get that deal, maybe Punk will no longer have the power that he once had.
The way power ends in pro wrestling is you stop drawing. You stop
Yeah.
being you stop being a commodity on your own. That's the one thing that you can say about Punk is that he's always kind of backed himself up. Now he's definitely put himself into a more difficult position on Collision because Collision's never going to have great ratings, right?
Yeah.
It'll have good ratings for Saturdays, and it's just it's a tough spot, and everybody realizes it. And as we've seen, the show is stronger with him than without him. But this is wrestling, man. I mean, like I said, Hulk Hogan did this kind of stuff. Shawn Michaels done this kind of stuff. Steve Austin did this. Like top.
Mhm.
Let's compare this to real sports too. If there's a conflict between the GM and a top star, who wins 9 times out of 10?
It depends on the top star, but it's like the GM of the Cowboys.
Should have used
Well,
coach.
or-
Yeah, I should have said coach. I should have said coach.
Yeah.
not GM.
So it really depends on the team. So let's take the shitty Philadelphia Eagles who cheat in the NFC Championship game and hurt quarterbacks when they're not looking. Let's talk about those idiots. So if there is a confrontation between Jalen Hurts and that dipshit Sirianni, the head coach, they're gonna keep Jalen Hurts and they're gonna favor him. Now, if it's the other way around, right? Say you're Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy, chances are you're gonna favor Kyle Shanahan because they feel like he's more important to the team than the success of their top star, right? Or their top star is probably like a guy like Fred Warner or George Kittle. You know what I mean? So it depends. So Chicago Bulls, if there was a big conflict between Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan, I get the feeling Jackson's going bye-bye. Jackson's going to be coaching the fucking Indiana Pacers. You know what I mean?
That happened with Doug
Jordan's
Collins.
not going anywhere.
That's
Yes,
what happened.
yes.
Doug Collins.
Yep.
Doug Collins got fired from the Bulls, and that's how Phil Jackson got brought in. I mean, this is sports. Whenever real sports mentality creeps into wrestling, people start freaking out about everything, and it drives me crazy that we can never like have like real conversations. People like, oh, I want sports wrestling, but like they really don't. Because whenever start people acting like athletes or acting like professional athletes who aren't just happy to be there, they got their panties all bundled up, like, oh, I can't do this. Like it's so annoying. And granted, Punk himself is annoying, but I just think I find a lot of this stuff to be very overblown, to be honest with you. And a lot of it is just sniping behind people's backs.
Well, and you know what it is? And I'm not going to name anybody by name, but when this stuff was breaking, like before the story's broken, we were talking to like 2 or 3 different people that had this story. You know what I mean? Before it actually hit the airwaves. And it's because this company's leaking like a sieve. It's like worse than the Trump White House, right? Like you're just hearing stuff all the time. And they were really wanting to get this story out there. And BJ Bethel did a great job of getting it out there before everybody else. Didn't get credit, Fightful, but he did a great job of getting that out there before everybody else. But everybody had it all at the same time because people in the company were just trying to get the story out there to paint, CM Punk in a bad light. And you know what? Maybe he is a bad guy. Maybe he was being a jerk. It appears this time with Hangman Page, because the Page side, the elite side, did go above and beyond to get out that CM Punk apologized and said he had nothing to do with it. So I'm gonna call that one good. Chances are Punk really didn't have anything to do with that one. But because people thought he did, to get Page's back, instead of confronting the situation, they leaked to the media, right? They leaked to their friends in the media, hoping to be able to get the story out. And then now what do we have? These people that love their company so much, right? They leak this to the media. And now this is a bigger story than the biggest show in the history of wrestling outside of WWE in forever. This show this show is bigger than the Wembley show that WWE did back in 1992, right? So this is one of the biggest shows of all time, but here we are, instead of leading with these new matches for All In, we're talking about Punk's bullshit. And Punk is an asshole, right? I don't think that's
no doubt.
Nobody can deny that. But I think the guys that kind of like that were just trying so hard to get everybody to talk about the story, they didn't do their company any favors. They didn't really do a very good job. You know what I mean? But the reporters did a great job, by the way, because this is what they do for a living. They get these stories out and they vetted it thoroughly. But that sucks that the folks, they did that. You know what I mean?
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you brought your A game. 8 made no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A game.